Hello YouTube, Dave here again. It's technically, I guess, Monday, April 3rd at the time that I'm recording this video. It's around 1:30 in the morning, Atlantic Standard Time, and I just, within the last 20 minutes or so, finished watching WrestleMania 33. Initially, my plans were to record a video where I reviewed the event as a whole, as well as work on one of my D&D videos that I really wanted to have put out. But I just find that after watching everything unfold, I just don't really feel up to really discussing a whole lot at this point. And the reason for that, I guess is anybody that's seen this, and, if you haven't, I apologize for any spoilers. But it appears very, very, very convincingly that we just witnessed the Undertaker's last match ever in professional wrestling. And I was expecting it. When they booked him with Roman Reigns, I knew that they were going to put Reigns over. And, I was okay with that. I understood that. Even though, I had prepared for it, and I even wrote on my Facebook page a list of my predictions, and even in there, I had written that, I fully expected Roman to go over. I don't think I was fully prepared for the emotional impact it was actually going to have. The match itself was serviceable. The Undertaker is up there in years, in his 50s now, and has been putting off hip replacement, or not hip replacement, I don't think, but at least some form of hip surgery that was going to spell the end of his career once it happened. So I know that he was putting that off, and and all that. So the match wasn't awful. I know a lot of people are down on it, I think mainly because of the fact that Roman Reigns is the one that retired him, so to speak. But I think it was inevitable, and again, I accept that. I want to move on past that. But there was still that overwhelming sense of, well, that's it. After the match was over, Undertaker sat up in the ring, and they showed some replays after he did that. And as they came back from the replays, he was in the ring with the lighting, and he was wearing his hat and his coat again, and just looked around as the stadium filled with people rightfully cheering, thank you Taker, and showing the utmost respect for one of the most amazing legendary performers in the history of professional wrestling. To end the show, he took off his gloves, which I had written in my prediction, but then to see him take the coat off and the hat off and lay them all in the ring, go outside, break character for the first time in 27 years, to go over and kiss his wife before he made his way up the ramp, throwing up the hand one last time as the ramp that he made, or the little trap door that he made his entrance on that raised him up, lowered him back down. So I want to dedicate this video as a heartfelt video and a look back at, again, my all-time favorite wrestler ever, and someone who's been a huge source of inspiration really in my life. So for me, it all started in 1993. WrestleMania 9 had just happened, and I never watched wrestling. I had never heard of wrestling. I was just downstairs in the basement, TV on in the background. I had finished watching Saturday morning cartoons and just had it on sort of as background noise while I played with toys, like Ninja Turtles or Transformers or something like that. And then this show came on. It was one of the WWF highlight shows, and the first thing they had shown was the highlights, the clips of the match between the Giant Gonzalez and the Undertaker. And I just remember being enthralled, and I just kind of sat there and was awestruck, by how awesome, this Undertaker was. So I started watching, and he immediately became my favorite. The last time I had ever dressed up for Halloween, which was I think the year after, because I wasn't really big on dressing up. But the last time I went out for Halloween, I dressed up as the Undertaker. So I had like a sweater or a sweatshirt that had the sleeves cut with the little triangular things that he had back then, because this would have been 1994. A cowboy hat that my grandfather took some warm towels and placed them on it to kind of bend the brim so it looked like, the Undertaker's hat. And this black house coat that was turned inside out because it had a little bit of, I think, Chinese lettering on it. So it was flipped reverse, and just a pair of gray winter gloves that were like knitted, but it was, anyway. So yeah, he was just a huge, like I said, huge influence. When I was going through middle school, actually, I was struck by puberty really bad and really a lot earlier than basically everybody else that was in school with me. So, I had the really bad acne. The voice started cracking like a year or two before most other people did. And started growing facial hair and stuff like that at a very early age. I mean, I was able to grow serviceable goatee when I was in the 8th grade, which most people were struggling to do when they were in the 12th grade. So I had a head start there. And I just remember being kind of picked on and bullied because of how bad it was and everything else. And it all cleared up, thankfully. Like the acne and stuff cleared up, years before everybody else's did, which was, great. But I just remember being picked on and bullied, and people would destroy my stuff. Like one of my hats that I had, somebody took it and just bent the beak, 3 or 4 different places and ruined it. I had people steal my like pencils and binders and paper and stuff like that. And I just remember, not wanting people to do that. I just wanted people to leave me alone. And I just remember, watching, the Undertaker character evolve. And, I could grow a beard like he had. So I started to grow a goatee. I had grown my hair out. And, I kind of had that look, I guess. People would always say. So, and I started even kind of mimicking some of his mannerisms. So I became very, quiet, very stoic. Didn't really open up a lot. Just because, again, when I had tried that before, it didn't do anything for me. And it ended up developing a reputation for me throughout school, which was interesting, to say the very least. After high school, I cut my hair and shaved my beard and everything, but I missed it. I missed having that. So I remember a few years later, I ended up growing it all back. I had the long hair again, and all that stuff. In fact, I actually have just a moment here. I actually have one of my old photos from Facebook, and so that is a picture of me. So if people are really curious, that's what I look like about 7 years ago, I think it was, that I had taken that. So anyway, so I continued to watch, and always enthralled, by the Undertaker. And for many years, I stopped watching when if he was injured or would take breaks. I just didn't watch anymore until he came back, and then finally I decided, I'd start watching when he made his return. I remember watching the series of 4 WrestleManias with the 2 with Shawn Michaels and the 2 with Triple H, which were 4 of the best matches, I think, in my opinion, in all of WrestleMania history. So again, as of today, one of the most legendary performers in all of professional wrestling, I would say, has called it a career. I'd be very surprised if we see another match from him. He was somebody whose legacy was, pure professionalism, respect, the kind of guy who would, he wrestled for like 3 days after the orbital bone was broken on his face, just so they could write him off of television. So they get to that point. He taped a police flat jacket, duct taped it, to himself to go out and wrestle with broken ribs, and when you watch the match, you would never know that he had the broken ribs. The WrestleMania streak became one of the most important matches in WrestleMania history. And it's always up for debate if you think he should have lost or if he should have kept it. I think that it should have been something that was kept until this moment to make it, something that's very definitive and special. But be that as it is, I just wanted to take a little bit of time to thank Mark Calloway, The Undertaker, for 27 incredible years. Some of the most entertaining things I'd ever watched or been a part of. All the times, at WrestleMania especially, where all the false finishes would nearly give me a heart attack. Again, I just want to say thank you for everything that you've done. You truly are, the greatest of all time. Nobody will ever come close to being what The Undertaker was and what The Undertaker meant to a lot of people. Again, I just wanted to get that out, sort of more of a personal video. This is almost more just for myself to kind of get the thoughts out than anything else. If you're watching this video, let me know what your memories were of The Undertaker. And one last thing, actually, when I was in my last year of high school, a friend of mine introduced me to this sort of like basement wrestling thing at a friend of his house. That a bunch of people were there, and they were wrestling on just carpet samples and or leftovers and under padding for carpeting. The person that was hosting these wrestling things was his father was a carpenter or a general contractor, so they had a lot of these leftover things. And I just remember, they talked me into it, said I should join, and I didn't know what kind of character I wanted to be, but as soon as I got there, because again, I had the long hair and the beard, they're like, yeah, you're going to be our version of The Undertaker. So in that slight way, I guess I was able to pay tribute to my all-time favorite. Anyway, again, I just wanted to kind of get those thoughts out. I hope you enjoyed the video. And, in the next day or so, I'll try to get back to some more regular stuff. Eventually I will get to do a full review of WrestleMania. Like I said, I just don't really feel like talking about anything else right now. So, again, thank you everyone very much for your time. I hope you enjoyed the video, and again, I hope you enjoyed the 27-year legendary career of, again, one of the greatest in-ring performers of all time. Thank you.